China's Belt and Road Initiative, or BRI, is incredibly ambitious. It aims to reshape global trade and enhance connectivity. Launched in 2013, the BRI encompasses a vast network of infrastructure projects. These include roads, railways, ports, and pipelines. The initiative spans across continents, connecting Asia, Europe, Africa, and beyond. The BRI has two main components: the Silk Road Economic Belt and the 21st Century Maritime Silk Road. The land-based Silk Road Economic Belt focuses on connecting China to Europe through Central Asia. The Maritime Silk Road aims to link Chinese ports to Southeast Asia, the Middle East, Africa, and Europe. China claims the BRI promotes economic development and international cooperation. However, critics argue it is a tool for China to expand its geopolitical influence. The initiative has raised concerns about debt sustainability, transparency, and environmental impact. The Belt and Road Initiative, commonly known as the BRI, has significant geopolitical implications, particularly for India. This ambitious project, spearheaded by China, aims to enhance global trade routes and infrastructure, but its strategic underpinnings cannot be ignored. China's investments in infrastructure projects across South Asia have created what some analysts call a ring of debt around India. This term refers to the network of financial dependencies that have emerged as a result of China's extensive lending to countries in the region. The ring of debt concept highlights the potential for countries to become economically dependent on China due to the large loans they receive for BRI projects. These loans often come with high interest rates and stringent repayment terms, making it challenging for recipient countries to manage their debt. This economic dependency has significant strategic implications for India. As these countries become more indebted to China, their political and economic policies may increasingly align with Beijing's interests, potentially at the expense of India's influence in the region. The ring of debt potentially allows China to exert considerable influence over India's neighbors. This influence can manifest in various forms, including political leverage, economic control, and even military cooperation. Countries like Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Nepal, Maldives, and Bangladesh have all received substantial Chinese investments under the BRI. These investments are often directed towards critical infrastructure projects such as ports, highways, and power plants, which are essential for the economic development of these nations. However, these investments often come with strings attached. The use of Chinese companies and labor for these projects is a common condition, which not only ensures that a significant portion of the investment returns to China, but also increases the recipient country's dependency on Chinese expertise and resources. India views this development with growing concern. The increasing presence of Chinese infrastructure and influence in its neighboring countries is seen as a direct challenge to its own strategic interests and regional dominance. From New Delhi's perspective, the BRI is not just an economic initiative, but a strategic maneuver aimed at encircling India. This encirclement could limit India's ability to project power and influence in its own neighborhood, thereby altering the regional balance of power. The potential for China to gain economic and political leverage over India's neighbors raises alarm bells in New Delhi. Indian policymakers are acutely aware of the long-term implications of this growing Chinese influence and are actively seeking ways to counter it. As a result, India has refused to participate in the BRI, citing concerns about sovereignty and transparency. Indian officials argue that the terms of the BRI agreements often lack transparency and could undermine the sovereignty of participating countries. By staying out of the BRI, India aims to protect its strategic interests and maintain its influence in the region. The case of the Hambantota port in Sri Lanka serves as a stark example of the potential pitfalls of the Belt and Road Initiative, commonly known as the BRI. This ambitious global development strategy, spearheaded by China, aims to enhance regional connectivity and embrace a brighter economic future. However, the Hambantota port project has become a symbol of the risks and challenges that can accompany such grand ventures. Central to the controversy surrounding Hambantota is the concept of debt trap diplomacy. This term refers to the practice of extending excessive credit to a borrowing nation with the intention of extracting economic or political concessions when the debtor country struggles to meet its repayment obligations. In the case of Hambantota, Sri Lanka found itself unable to repay the substantial loan it had taken from China. As a result, in 2017, the Sri Lankan government was compelled to lease the port to a Chinese company for an astonishing 99 years. This long-term lease has raised concerns about the erosion of Sri Lanka's sovereignty and control over its own strategic assets. The Hambantota port project was initially financed with a significant loan from China Exim Bank, one of China's major financial institutions. The loan was intended to transform Hambantota into a bustling hub of maritime activity, boosting the local economy and creating jobs. Unfortunately, the port failed to generate the anticipated revenue needed to service the debt. The lack of sufficient commercial activity and shipping traffic meant that the port's financial performance fell far short of expectations, leading to mounting financial losses. This financial shortfall led to accusations that China had deliberately lured Sri Lanka into a debt trap. Critics argue that by extending loans that were difficult to repay, China aimed to gain control over a strategically important asset in the Indian Ocean region. The Hambantota case has become a cautionary tale for other countries considering participation in BRI projects. It serves as a stark reminder of the potential risks and long-term consequences of accepting large-scale loans from China without thoroughly assessing the financial viability and strategic implications. The situation highlights the inherent risks associated with large loans from China, particularly the potential loss of sovereignty over critical infrastructure and strategic assets. Countries must carefully weigh the benefits of such investments against the possible long-term repercussions. The Hambantota incident has also fueled widespread criticism of China's lending practices. It has intensified debates about the true intentions behind the BRI, with some viewing it as a tool for economic expansion and influence rather than purely developmental assistance. This case study underscores the importance of transparency, due diligence, and strategic foresight when engaging in international financial agreements. Section 4. Debt Trap or Development Tool. Deciphering China's Motives. The Belt and Road Initiative, often abbreviated as BRI, is one of the most ambitious infrastructure and economic development projects in modern history. Launched by China in 2013, it aims to enhance global trade and stimulate economic growth across Asia and beyond by developing trade routes reminiscent of the ancient Silk Road. China's Belt and Road Initiative has sparked intense debate and contrasting perspectives. The initiative spans over 60 countries, covering a vast array of projects including railways, highways, ports, and energy pipelines. This massive scale has led to a variety of interpretations and opinions about China's true intentions. Critics argue that the initiative is a form of debt trap diplomacy. They suggest that China is using the BRI to strategically entangle developing nations in debt, thereby gaining leverage over them. This perspective is often highlighted by Western analysts and media, who point to instances where countries have struggled to repay Chinese loans. They claim China intentionally burdens developing countries with unsustainable debt. Examples often cited include Sri Lanka's Hambantota port, which was leased to a Chinese company for 99 years after Sri Lanka struggled to repay its loans. Such cases are used to argue that China is more interested in gaining strategic footholds than in fostering genuine development. This, they say, allows Beijing to leverage these debts for strategic concessions, such as access to natural resources or support for its foreign policy agenda. By securing control over critical infrastructure and resources, China can enhance its geopolitical influence and secure vital economic interests. Conversely, supporters view the Belt and Road Initiative as a genuine effort to foster economic development and cooperation. They argue that the BRI provides much-needed infrastructure to developing countries, which can be a catalyst for economic growth and poverty reduction. They argue that infrastructure development is crucial for economic growth in developing countries. Improved transportation networks, for instance, can facilitate trade, reduce costs, and open up new markets for local businesses. This, in turn, can lead to job creation and improved living standards. They also point out that China is not the only country providing loans for infrastructure projects. Many other nations and international financial institutions have been involved in similar activities for decades. The difference, they argue, lies in the scale and scope of China's investments, and that Western countries have also engaged in lending practices that have sometimes led to debt problems. Historical examples include the debt crises in Latin America during the 1980s, which were partly due to loans from Western banks and financial institutions. The reality is likely more nuanced than either extreme narrative. While there are legitimate concerns about debt sustainability and geopolitical motives, It is also true that many countries have benefited from improved infrastructure and economic opportunities. While China undoubtedly seeks to advance its interests through the Belt and Road Initiative, it is also driven by economic considerations. The initiative is a way for China to export its surplus capital and industrial capacity, which can help sustain its own economic growth. It is also driven by economic considerations. China's economy has grown rapidly over the past few decades, leading to a surplus of capital and industrial capacity. The BRI provides an outlet for these resources, allowing Chinese companies to find new markets and investment opportunities. China has a surplus of capital and industrial capacity, and the initiative provides an outlet for these resources. By investing in infrastructure projects abroad, China can keep its factories running and maintain economic stability at home, and the initiative provides an outlet for these resources. Ultimately, the Belt and Road Initiative is a complex and multifaceted endeavor. It has the potential to bring significant benefits to participating countries, but it also carries risks and challenges that need to be carefully managed. Understanding China's motives requires a balanced and nuanced perspective, recognizing both the opportunities and the potential pitfalls. Section 5. Countering the Dragon. India's strategic response to the BRI. India has been wary of China's Belt and Road Initiative since its inception, viewing it with caution. Viewing it as a strategic challenge, India has refused to participate in the initiative and has actively sought to counter its influence in the region. India has taken a multi-pronged approach to counter the Belt and Road Initiative's expansive reach. This includes strengthening its own strategic partnerships with key global players, investing heavily in infrastructure projects in its neighborhood, and offering alternative development models to countries in the region. India has deepened its strategic ties with countries like Japan, the United States, and Australia. It has also ramped up its investments in infrastructure projects in neighboring countries such as Nepal, Bhutan, and Bangladesh, ensuring regional stability and growth.